An early call here for Donald Trump. We still have questions, though, about turnout, which could set a record from early indicators. Is that possible?
It is possible. It seems like turnout amongst those independent voters that Haley was counting on, amongst Democrats writing in the president's name, was a lot higher than anybody was expecting.
With that said, it's supposed to benefit Nikki Haley. So what kind of margins are we looking for here?
That's the big question. If you look at a lot of the polling that's come out over the last week, Trump has been leading Haley by margins of 15, 20, 25 points. And so far, he's not putting up that kind of margin, which strikes me as a really interesting indicator. It suggests that maybe there are a lot of Republicans, even though he's winning the primary, even though he's in a commanding position to get nominated, who aren't 100% on board with that yet.
Well, right now, according to the Associated Press, roughly a fifth of votes have been counted, 20%. Trump currently at 52.7%, Nikki Haley at 46.4%. So again, a narrower margin than we maybe expected given the polling coming into today. The fact remains, though, and as Tyler just pointed out there in that interview, New Hampshire is so unique when it comes to how many undeclared voters there are. You can't replicate that anywhere else to the same extent. So if they can't get it over the finish line here, realistically, what is the view for Nikki Haley going forward as she weighs after tonight, having not won New Hampshire, what she should, if she should, move forward in this campaign?
Right. The problem she's facing is, the next state is her home state of South Carolina. Usually your home state is in the bag for you. Polls show Trump up by huge margins there. That said, it might be that the margin tonight is enough encouragement for her to want to give that a go, to think that, well, if I could close it from 20-some points to 6, 7, 8 points in New Hampshire, maybe I can do the same thing in the state where I was governor twice.
Amazing. I don't know. What does it say about New Hampshire, in a state that, of course, voted for Donald Trump going back to 2016? He had to work for it, though, and made very few visits to the state compared to the other candidates. Never spent the night here again. Certainly wasn't outdoor knocking. Or have the rules for the New Hampshire primary changed?
I don't know if the rules for the primary have changed so much as that the rules don't seem to apply to Donald Trump.
So he's the exception.
He's the exception, but he's also running as a de facto incumbent president. His campaign looks a lot more like what you see when an incumbent president is running for re-election. That said, if we treat him that way in terms of his campaign, maybe we should be thinking about him that way in terms of this result. What would we be saying if Joe Biden was up over Dean Phillips 53-47 at this point in the evening? I think we'd be having a really different conversation.
How about that?
Well, to that exact point, according to the Associated Press, in the Democratic primary, unprocessed write-ins, 73% of the vote. Dean Phillips, 20.3%, and the Associated Press has called, as of 8:07 p.m., the race in New Hampshire for Joe Biden, even though, to your point, he wasn't actually competing.
The race to nowhere.
In New Hampshire.
Right, and there are no delegates at stake.
I was going to say, no delegates up for grabs in the Democratic case. In Nikki Haley's, though, she could still get delegates. That's the way the rules work in New Hampshire. It's delegate math at the end of the day as well.
That's true. Now, New Hampshire does not have a lot of delegates compared
22.
to bigger states like Texas, California, Florida, and that sort of thing. I think one of the things the Haley campaign is going to have to be asking themselves is there a way forward where they can try to maximize their delegate haul, even if they don't have the sorts of fundraising they would have expected to get if they had won the primary here, and that sort of thing. But that's a really difficult path for a candidate who's now 0 for 2, and a couple weeks ago was talking about beating Trump in New Hampshire.
Well, we just got a statement from the Trump campaign calling on Nikki Haley to drop out, and that shouldn't be a big shocker. He's already called on everyone in the field to drop out. But it reads, every day she stays in this race is another day she delivers to the Harris-Biden campaign. It's time for unity. It's time to drop out. What kind of pressure will she be feeling first thing tomorrow morning?
That's unknown at this point. I think, I don't know what's going on inside the Haley campaign. That statement strikes me as really unusual, though. Usually candidates are pretty hands-off and gentle with rivals who should drop out based on the results so far, but they want there to be good feelings. But this is Trump, right? He just wants to dominate his opponents and have them surrender to him the way we saw Ron DeSantis do over the weekend. It seems like the sort of thing that could be counterproductive and lead Haley to say, okay, how do I stay in this race a little longer?
How do I stick this out?